What the fuck is up, guys? Sebastian here, and you probably clicked on this video because you also want to find out how this motherfucker is making $1.2 million per month. So I did the same, and I looked on YouTube. There's all these copy paste funnel breakdowns bullshit where guys that haven't even made money themselves just like analyze them and don't even know the fuck what they're talking about. And I'm thinking they're all analyzing the wrong thing. It's not about the funnels, because the funnels work every single time. However, if there's not a proper psychological breakdown in the back end, it's not going to work. Meaning, if your content is not optimized for the right psychological triggers, if your sales mechanism is not optimized for certain psychological things that we want to do with the audience, it just doesn't work. And that's the reason what I did here is I essentially broke down all of his fucking content. No, this is not by VA, it's all by me. Where I go deep into the psychology behind his content, because as you can see here, people are not just like converting you by accident. There's manipulation infrastructure in place. There's certain cognitive biases that they're using, and that's essentially what I want to show you in this video. So if you're a marketer, if you have clients yourself, or if you also have an info brand, I think it's going to be very valuable for you to understand just like how to properly and kind of like ethically manipulate your audience. What he's doing, you will see it along the video. I'm not sure how ethical it is. Anyways, let's jump straight into it. So the main thing that we need to understand is first, what is this content? So we essentially have three main content archetypes. And the reason why this is so important, because each of these has a specific reason why they are there and a specific goal that they want to achieve. And all of these are going into specific buckets here in top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. So I also color coded these. So in order to get eyeballs on the top of the funnel, what we need to do, we need to get people to know us. So what are we doing here? We need to have certain virality type based content that allows us to get a lot of eyeballs on top of the funnel. For example, this here, I saw this video so many times, 3 ways to give you to give a cop your ID, and then essentially you pull it out. And that's like a content format that has already been proven to work in other niches. Niche's cop it is in his fucking niche with his cool brabas in the background, and obviously people like that. So it has the virality aspect and it gives him the mass reach that he wants there. So once we have the people to get to know us on the top of the funnel, then what we essentially want to do, we get them to the middle of the funnel, meaning to like us. So how do we get people to like us? It's something that every single creator has. You don't buy from the creator because he provides so much value. You don't buy from the creator because he really knows what he's talking about. The main thing that people buy from is lifestyle. Like if you look at his YouTube videos, you have 44 minutes with him where you see essentially his crazy lifestyle, where he has a shit ton of money and drives cool cars and does all of that fancy things that all of you want to do. And that's the only reason why people buy from him, because of his lifestyle, because of the proof that he shows. He not only shows theoretical that his stuff works, he also proves it with the fact that obviously he buys a shit ton of cars that cost a shit ton of money. That proves his point. Also, you start to see him as a character. Brez is his own character. Every single guy out there is his own character. Like Moses is his own character, Iman, Ty, Brez. And you have to understand, how can you implement for your customer, for yourself, a certain character that is mesmerizing but also memorable for the people to keep thinking about you. And we go into a second why that is important, but that's essentially where people get to like him. And especially in 44-minute video, that is a very, very long time that people have. So then once we're there, we need to go to the bottom of the funnel, where obviously we need to build the trust, and then all of that leads to the sale. So how do we essentially do that? Because the sales is all what we want at the end of the day, right? So if we look at here at the content here on top, it's essentially educational content. People see it the way around. People think, oh, I need to provide value first. I need to build educational content first, and then I go to the other types of content. But it's really the other way around. Only educational content worked when there was not that much of an authority gap or of a trust gap as it is right now in the market. Right now, the trust, we're really in a trust recession. No one trusts anyone in the info market because everyone is just scamming. That's at least the perceived notion of the people in the space. So even though I wouldn't agree with it, it's just what it is, and that's what we need to adopt to. And what he does, for him, it's only like 20% of the content. Like, he is not as educational. When did you ever watch a video of educational Brez Scales? I didn't either, and you probably not either too. So that's what I mean here, is that we need to understand that is just a little bracket of this whole system that he has here, and it really comes down to value providing, but that's really at the bottom of the funnel. So once we have this whole structure here, we need to really understand and master the art of tricking people into thinking about you or your client, whatever you want to apply to. And it all goes back to this motherfucker called Daniel Kahneman. He has a pretty cool book. If you want to read it, super long. I think it's Think Fast, Move Slow, or like something like that. I could be so wrong about it, but I don't give a fuck. I don't cut it out. Just search up the guy. He's a smart guy. And he essentially is a Nobel Prize winning guy. And he said, nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you're thinking about it. Meaning, every single time we can trick someone to make them think about you, it raises the perceived importance. And that's the big part here. It doesn't matter if it's with your client. It doesn't matter with a girl. If you can make a person think about you, it automatically overstates the perceived value of that person. So we need to understand is how can we make our audience think about the client, about us as a person 24/7 and all days long, because that's raises the perceived value and that gets them to actually buy and choose us over their competitors. How do we do this? We do this with content leverage infrastructure, meaning we have to understand that the more time the people think about us, the more leverage we essentially have. And the leverage that comes here is really what it means when it all comes down to the whole funnel here. And I don't know why this fucking thing is not working. God damn it. You know, it's Saturday. I record my fucking content. I think, okay, I'm consistent. But now this fucking thing is making me fucking act out. Anyways, we just stick to the plan because I don't give a fuck. I just keep on doing it. I won't cut it out because I'm fucking authentic. That's what people need in this validity. Oh, now it works. Okay, we go back to this point here. The more times we can get people to think about us, the more leverage we have. And we always need to think of the one component, the one task, the one activity that gives us the most leverage. So in this case, it's authentic content that gets people to think about us. Because we all know the 7-hour marketing rule, which essentially states that a potential customer needs approximately 7 hours of cumulative interaction with the brand before they're ready to buy. So we need to put out a lot of content that a lot of people watch that makes them empathize with us. And in that content, we want to use something called hypnotic language patterns. I'm not sure who he taught him or if he's even aware of that. There's some people who just have that naturally and they incorporate it in the content without even thinking about it. But what it essentially is all the hypnotic language patterns is the proper way on how to target areas such as the limbic brain and the reptilian brain and not the neocortex. Because what we need to understand is that the neocortex here, this area, and also the prefrontal cortex, is more for the rational and logical mind. This is what all you guys try to do. You try to send rationally and logically. However, what people do is they buy out of emotion and then rationalize with logic why they actually bought it. So don't even fucking think about this area here. Like, that's not what we should target it. We should only focus on the limbic brain and on the reptilian brain because this is responsible for emotions and for decision makings. And that's the most important part that we want to focus on when buying a person. So how do we do this? There's essentially three main... I just stopped this here. This is laggy as fuck. Okay, yeah, maybe it's better now. So there's essentially three fucking main ways in how we can incorporate that. We have... Honestly, it's two. My bad. We have sub-communication, we have storytelling, and all of these have certain sub-facets. For example, in sub-communication, we have tonality. In this way, we have gestures, and then we also have micro expressions. And each of these things are so subtle, and that's the reason why they call sub-communication, but they make such a big influence. And I'm gonna tell you why in a second. But for example, in tonality, it's the way you pitch the tone and the rhythm and just like convey the emotion and the intent, which essentially shapes how your message gets perceived by the audience. I can say, look, if my mom screams me, you know, if dinner's done or whatever, and she says Sebastian, or she says Sebastian or Sebastian, all of these are the same fucking name or the same way of saying it, but like three different tonalities to it. And each of these have a different meaning. And if we can understand, if we have the proper tonality in our sales letters, in our videos or whatever, it will automatically proper convey the points that we want to bring across for the audience in order to have a proper perceived image of us as the leader or like for your client. And the same thing goes with gestures. There's been a study, like if you know TED Talks, there's essentially a study, like a guy said, look, there's a couple of videos that completely take off that are super viral, and then there's like the other half which is just like super bad and no one gives a fuck about it. So I think it's a super tedious task, but he essentially went into all this video to analyze them, and he found out that there's a major difference in between gestures. I think the top 10% who essentially got the most views had, I think, like 280 gestures, meaning anything like this, anything with your hand. Like, don't do bullshit, but like gestures mean just like a certain extent that I express my emotions by not just words, but like also by my facial expressions, how I say, like how I react to certain things, what I do with my hands. And the people who essentially fucked up only had like below 50. So like that essentially shows the conviction that you have in your speech, and the conviction and understanding of what you present really comes down to how strong your gestures is, or in this case, just your overall sub-communication, because there's also another part, which is micro-expressions. Micro-expressions is, like it says, a micro-expression of a certain belief, thought, or habit of yourself. So it's like a subtle and involuntary facial movement that reveals the true emotions, which builds trust, connection, understanding beyond what words can even express. So think of it. I have a friend of mine, and every single time he gets an uncomfortable situation, I know how his face changes, because I'm not bad at reading people, so I understand that. And I know his facial expression goes super subtle into a certain expression that makes him feel uncomfortable. And I see this with a couple other friends of mine as well, which is completely inhuman, not something to judge. But that's a subtle micro expression, which you only catch if you're aware, if you understand that principle. And those little things also come up, for example, when he gets interviewed. If a person asks him, like, hey, what's your real goal? Why are you even doing this? If he in that sense would lie, we haven't, like, every human has a bullshit detector, and you would essentially know if this dude is just telling shit, because his subtle expressions of his face would reveal it, or of his body language, and we're just hardwired to figure that out. Because back in the day, we needed to judge a person based on that, because otherwise we would have gotten killed. Like, that's our tribal instinct that we have in our brain. Talopus always calls it the 10,000-year-old mind. Like, these hard wirings are still in our brain, and that allows us to properly see if we can trust the person or not. And these seem like such the subtle little cues, but like, he probably doesn't even pay attention to it, because like, if he is so convinced of what he's doing, and like if he's truly living truthful to that, all of these things are on point. Maybe he optimizes some of these, but that is super important. Another thing that you always notice with every single good creator is like, they have very good storytelling. I remember I told it to a friend of mine. He said, yeah, people say stories are somehow magical, but I still don't get it. And I didn't get it as well until I kind of like understood the principle behind it, which I go here into a second why this is so important. But he essentially has multiple stories here. So essentially 3 types of stories. We have the origin story, we have the viral story, and then we have the insider story. And there's a couple more, for example, here, like the resistance enemy story. He did a double, but who gives a fuck? But you have to understand that each of these stories has a different goal, a psychological effect that it has on you. For example, here in the origin story, it creates relatability and context. Like, this dude, yeah, I dropped out of school. Like, he had the same kind of life that we have, and it just like creates resonance and just creates relatability. He's not the guy who just like has Lamborghini. No, he was also the guy like you, who dropped out of school, who had a dream, goal, chased it, and got it done. And that's really what it is, and we want to always have that, because that creates the relatability. And because everyone nowadays drives a Lambo, has a private jet, and it's just like so far away. But the more relatable you become, the better your conversion will be at the end of the day. So then here, essentially, what he asked with the viral story, it's attention hijacking. So like every single time we can have a viral moment, such as obviously here crashing a Lamborghini, it creates a shit ton of views. And that's only from one video. There's obviously way, way more, which creates just like the viral effect. And people tell, oh, you saw what Brez did, and whatever. And that viral moment just like gets a word of mouth, and it gets more attention to him as the character, which allows him obviously to make more sales. This is really what it's all about. Here, then we have the insider story. Obviously, does your grandpa own Fiji? Like, that's such an insider thing, which you only know if you're kind of like in that world, and creates belonging and exclusivity. It's like, oh, I only know this insider, which makes you kind of like feel important. If everyone would know it, it wouldn't be cool. And that's really the goal here to create with that audience. You always want to have your insiders. Tate has insiders. Every single other creator has their insiders that you know if you really watch your content, and that makes it very, very special and unique. Another thing that we all have that creators all have is the enemy story. The enemy story is like literally where it presents a challenge, a competitor, an obstacle, where you unite together to create a motivation toward that shared goal. Meaning, for example, Imagazi always has the puppet master, but like you need to create this legion of like, we fight against them. Like the us versus them dynamic in the psychological terms is so fucking strong. And let me pull you one of my books. If you want to really learn more about this stuff, this is the way to go. Like, this is where all of these principles are essentially from. And every great marketer has read this, and it's really insanely good. It talks about all of these principles, and you will understand the whole space way more, because you just don't see it anymore how they're portrayed, but like what's behind it. And that's the goal, I think, in life as well, is like, how can I look at things and see what's behind it and understand it from that perspective. Then essentially we have this resistance story, a narrative showing how obstacles or limiting beliefs are anticipated and overcome, making outcomes feel earned and inspiring action. Meaning, I know it's sounding kind of like GPT bullshit, which it actually is, but yeah, I'm upfront, I know. But what it really is we need to understand that every single customer or group of customers has a specific resistance towards buying the program. So like that resistance could be, oh, I don't have money. Oh, it's not worth it. Oh, I can't do it. So if you already do audience research before and you can create a story that overcomes that resistance, where essentially say, oh yeah, and I thought that was too good to be true. Let's say that's their perceived reason why they don't want to move forward. Oh yeah, and I also thought it would be too good to be true. But then essentially I had this epiphany, and this is what I did, and this is what I understood. And you walk them through the inner transformation and the outer transformation of having that overcome that obstacle, and that automatically will overcome the internal obstacle, because you automatically understand like, hey, that's what they're going through, and I went through this too, and then they resonate with it, and then you overcome it. Like, that's the number one way. And also Hormozy says that in the book of Russell Brunson. Also says that every single time there's a limiting belief, you want to overcome it with telling a story how someone else or you as a character overcame this as well. So that's really more about the stories. But the question is, why are stories even so fucking effective? So I did some digging, and it all comes down to this smart motherfucker called Jermo Brunner. And he came up with something called the narrative construction of reality. Sounds complicated. It's not really. It's essentially a theory that proposes that humans primarily understand and construct reality, not through objective facts, but through shared stories, beliefs, and cultural frameworks. And it all goes back to the 10,000-year-old mind. It's like we got hardwired to think in these ways. We didn't understand reality through like objective facts and numbers and statistics. No, it's through stories, it's through beliefs, it's through cultural frameworks. So all of you guys try just like to do factual stuff, but it just doesn't work out, because it's not about the statistics in the mind. It's all about how imaginative you can tell a story and convey a certain belief. Because narrative persuasion, because if we look at something also called narrative persuasion, it's a psychological process where essentially, let me read this here. Narrative persuasion is a psychological process by which a story can change a person's attitude, a belief, a behavior by engaging them emotionally and cognitively through a narrative. Meaning the more, and as you can see here, it all goes back to emotions. The more we control someone's emotions, the higher chance we have of essentially changing their belief and changing their viewpoint and their perception. So this is essentially how it works. We have a storyteller here, and the storyteller has a certain narrative that they push, and automatically in the perceiver's mind, we will change that certain belief, that viewpoint, because of the story. And this is how we overcome it. And all of the creators that we see in the space, including Brez Scales, they're using something called a manipulation infrastructure. I just called it that name because it sounds cool, because I thought it sounded cool. But it all goes back to science again. It all goes back to the information you see on how big leaders in the world essentially convince their audience to buying from them or voting for them. Like, it all goes back to fucking even Roman empires, or even all of the philosophers. Like, it's not something new, and it's not my principles. These are all psychological principles that existed since day fucking one, and now we're just using it in a 2025 market. And that's what you need to understand. And I grouped it into three main areas. We have here the status projection, we have here the value resonance, and cognitive biases. So, status projection. Every single creator, and including Brez, we need wealth signals. Meaning, you need to see that this guy makes a shit ton of money. Why would he else listen to him? Because he is the authority. Money always created authority and social proof. But he also has social status, which now has completely changed through social medias. But also, if you see in his content, he has status. People come up to him. That is important because we perceive a person who has social status as more important. But then also female approval. It's very interesting with female approval. There's some creators who do it very strong and very openly. And then there's creators who do it more subtle. Brez is more subtle. Like, he's not posting women all the time, whatever, but he still does it subtle. He says, oh yeah, I'm not in Miami because all of these OnlyFans women hitting me up or whatever. And it's the strongest trigger in a male. The reproductive trigger of us reproducing our species, of generating another life in this world, is the strongest trigger that has ever existed. Read the book of Napoleon Hill. He talks about sexual transmutation and why do you think porn exists? That's the only reason, because they want depletive of our life force and of our energy, because it's so strong. If this energy can create a human in his life, what do you think it can do if it's properly channeled? And this trigger is so strong because if we see this person has female approval, we think logically, or also emotionally to a certain extent, okay, this dude lives this life, and that's the reason why he gets the women. So I need to live also his life. So the only way is to learn from him and buy his course in order to get that. And it is so subtle and it sounds so stupid, but that's really what it is. And I'm sure you've often looked at creators like that and thinking, oh, he get money. Oh, he get the women. Oh, I need that as well. Because it's a lifestyle that sells you on it. But like, it's these subtle things that create the status of the person that make them even appeal to the, like, you wouldn't even listen if he doesn't have social status. You wouldn't even listen if he doesn't have money. You wouldn't even listen if he has female approval. You wouldn't give a single fuck. But that is important. And then it comes back here to the value resonance, like the origin story. We need to emphasize that no one cares about just a guy who got money and then like he lives that life. No, we always need to think of movies. It's like origin story, like Batman. Oh, his fucking family got killed. Then he went through his whole journey, and then like he become this fucking hero, and then he had this enemy he needed to fight. And that engages us emotionally. It makes this whole thing interesting. It makes this whole thing worthwhile listening to. If it's just a random story where he's like, yeah, I just made some money, now I travel the world, now I get women and I have a Lamborghini, no one gives a fuck, because it's not emotionally enticing. And we need to, that's what I also have from the book, Expert Secrets, not .com. That's all what I also have from this book, Expert Secrets. It's all about the story that we have behind it, origin story, hero story, and also the common enemy that we are fighting against. Because that's what gets us emotionally hooked. And also, if you know Warren Buffett, if you don't, I don't know what you're doing. But he essentially, or was it Charlie Munger? Yes, so Warren Buffett's business partner, Charlie Munger. A lot of people refer to him as one of the smartest guys on this fucking planet. He came essentially up with like certain cognitive biases, meaning those are psychological triggers hardwired in our brain, which we can use in order to persuade someone to buy from us. And there's tons of these. Like, I have a full fucking list of these, which I'm more than happy to make a video about it. But majority of the creators using curated FOMO, meaning there's fear of missing out. Oh, the spots are closed, or you cannot enter anymore, or we have so many people in there. We only have it up for 24 hours. We only accept 500 spots. All of that shit. And it sounds so stupid, but it still works. It still works if it's done properly and if it's done in a certain way. That's what we need to understand. Also, same thing goes with anchoring and framing. He frames his offer and himself in a certain perspective so that you think you doing yourself a service, not him. You think, oh, I do this for me. No, you're not. I mean, yes, of course, to a certain extent, but like, you're still giving him money. It's like, oh, they accepted me. That's what they also frame and anchor all the time. It's like, oh, we only accept like certain people who are serious and blah, blah. Which I guess is true to a certain extent, but we all know the FOMO is bullshit. Urgency and scarcity is bullshit. If they could get 5,000 deals a day, they would also accept it. And we also know that it's not a matter of like them accepting us. They would take anything for money, because that's literally what it is. But we don't see it that way because we get properly persuaded in the cognitive biases section, because it's hard. It's mental hardwired triggers that we have within ourselves. And we need to understand that he probably made his, does not verify, I could be wrong here, but he probably made his first 100K with brand scaling, but his first million with digital products. Because you always see it, there's always more money in selling digital products than it actually is in what they're doing itself. It's so funny. Digital product is just the highest margin thing and the best thing you can do if you do it in the right way. But we need to understand an offer also falls into it. And I didn't name this Grand Slam offer bullshit, but I took another principle from Hormozy, which is called a value equation. I think you've already heard of it, but essentially goes into how to create an offer that people view it as differently from the market and that they accept it and want to buy from it. And we essentially need to increase the likelihood of them achieving their goal, as we can see here. Like, what are the odds of me achieving the goal? That's what the users ask, and we need to increase that likelihood. But also, we need to properly portray what is the dream outcome that they will get when they buy it, and at the same time, really decrease the time delay. Like, if I give you, look, best product on this planet would be, look, you take this pill and tomorrow you have a six-pack. It's like time delay 0, effort and sacrifice 0, likelihood of achievement 100%, dream outcome 100%. That's the perfect offer. It just doesn't exist. But we need to think of how can we create this type of offer for the person we work together with or for ourselves in order to make a shit ton of money. Because no one wants to wait 2 years. I mean, honestly, it's realistic. Like if you want to make a shit ton of money, you need to have some time delay in it. That's normal. But people don't want to hear that, and we need to properly frame it still from an ethical perspective. But like, yes, you're gonna make $1 million with freelance brand scaling in the next 90 days. I mean, that's stupid. We all know that. But we also need to show that the effort and sacrifice they need to bring is not too much, because the more effort and sacrifice, the more it's unvaluable. So we need to have a proper value equation to make people perceive our offer in a very valuable way and make it understand that it's worth doing it. Because if all of these things are off, people won't buy either. And then essentially all comes down to, we can create this by figuring out what is the dream outcome, what is the obstacles that you're currently facing, we need to list all of the problems and the solution they think they have and what we have for them. Maximize profit/value, meaning, okay, what is increasing the value, and what is decreasing the cost, and what is decreasing the value, and what is increasing the cost. We always want to make sure that we have a proper transition here to not have really a bad profit margin. Like info normally has good profit margins, but that's essentially what it is. And then we need to have a value stacks. Like here, okay, this is the value, this is how much it costs. I'm not a fan as much about this anymore. I think it's a little bit sucked out. B2C probably works, but B2B doesn't work anymore. Like no one gives a fuck about a value stack. Like would it do something actually show you, hey, this is cost $XYZ, this is valued at this. Dude, valuing is so subjective. No one gives a fuck. Everyone knows the strategy. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to understanding the customer's pain, differentiating yourself in the market, and creating this irresistible offer that really pushes through. Because we need to create a high value offer. Because if not, everyone will watch us as the same guy as everyone in space. And if you think of it, freelance brand scaling is just running an e-com agency, just like renewed and like repackaged. It's all about packaging. How can I create a high value offer by truly understanding the customer's pain and their desired outcome, but still making it look fancy and making it look cool so that people want to do it? Because if we look like everyone else, no one wants to buy from us because there's no differentiation factor. And also, if you have not a personality, then you wouldn't buy from that person either. Because the context matters. Context matters a lot because you resonate with their values. And if you like them, then you go ahead with it. And you don't buy from the person who gives you the most value. You buy from the person who you resonate the most with. So how can we even get to the point? We need to understand that we need to do an audience research and need to understand their market sophistication. And then out of this, we can create this high level offer. Every single creator has a certain conversion mechanism. And it mainly goes in two main brackets. We have here DM setting. That was bad. We have here DM setting, and we have a direct pitch. Meaning, direct pitch would be buy in the description, email marketing, free trainings, landing pages, opt-in pages, some do affiliate marketing. Then we have, in the DM setting, you have comment triggers, ads to DM, inbound DM, story sequences, buy CTA, outbound DMs. And he's probably doing a mix of both. But what do you see majority of the time with larger creators? Like, look, we have here multiple funnel ways. We have webinar funnel, VSL funnel, DM setting funnel, and free group to paid funnel. Majority of the larger creators go with the webinar funnel, which he also did. Because it's just the smartest thing what you can do, because you have a large amount of an audience with you on a specific topic for multiple days or for multiple hours. And they're just so focused on that one thing. It just closes the gap between the person who does have zero trust, zero context, zero knowledge about you to knowing everything that you do and everything that you provide and how you can help them achieve that goal. If you're starting out, probably this is better for you. Like if you have a small audience, we've seen this working incredibly well. This VSL funnel is nice, a little bit outdated, it still can work, but it takes a long time to build in. This also, can work, but I'm not as of a fan of it. But if we look at the webinar funnel, it all comes down to we need to have paid traffic or organic traffic. We get it to webinar VSL page. Hey, this is my webinar. This is what I'm about to cover, whatever. We get it to a register page. Then we get to a confirmation page. Hey, make sure to add it to your calendar. Make sure you show up. Make sure you ain't a stupid guy. Then we have email and SMS flow. Hey, this is going to be crazy. I give this away. I give X away. Who gives a fuck? Then we have the live or replay webinar. Depends on the guy how he wants to do it. Like, you could do both. We also do both with our clients. Then you either book a call or you purchase an info product. Depends. If you have a product below 2K, you could probably pitch it on a webinar, but everything above it's kind of like more of explanatory matter, meaning you need to have a sales guy on it and to overcome objections. And then what you can do is like, oh, this offer is only for 48 hours. Then you make a shit ton of money within the 48 hours. And then you either have an info sale or a sales call. And that makes him money. I think they did like $1 million in a day or something like that, which is insane for me. Okay, once we got them on, we need to understand the sales to fulfillment continuum. Now, it isn't from me, it is from fucking Hamosi, the OG in the spaceman. So we need to understand, we need to find something that is easy to sell, a course, and easy to fulfill. That's literally what he's doing. I mean, that's what the whole info space is all about. Easy to sell and easy to fulfill. What are you guys all probably doing? It's hard to fulfill and hard to sell. Like, get out of your fucking sucked out niche. Really. Like, do something that is high level in opportunities. Hamosi talks about his principle where it is an entrepreneur. He, from a character standpoint, is maybe a 2, but his opportunity is a 10. Like, we all know guys like that, for example, in crypto. They make a shit ton of money. They're stupid as hell, but they're just in the right business opportunity. And then there's other entrepreneurs who like in level 5 opportunity, but they're level 8 entrepreneur. And it's just like, what are you doing in level 5 opportunity? You want to at least have a 7 or 8, ideally a 9, which info still is. I think info is still an 8. And if you talk with ChatGPT about it, SMMA and stuff like that, it's kind of like a 5 to 6, but like info is still an 8.5, which is, in my opinion, as you can see here, one of the smartest things to do. So then he either has a group coaching, one-on-one coaching, or high ticket upsell. And then there's course content attached to it. Obviously, 5 to 15 in-depth hours of course content based on existing pain points, specific solutions to the problems, live call recordings added. Can be a few hours for a start. And then we have some additional assets such as like cheat sheets, pre-written SOPs, discounted access to the tools, software access, dedicated team, all of that stuff. And group coaching majority of the time is $27 to $97 per month. Then one-on-one coaching $3 to $5K a month, and high ticket upsell $10 to $30K. I think what they're doing, I mean, I don't know it because I didn't watch this fucking VSL funnel and geek that shit out. Like I said, I just analyzed it from a psychological perspective. And I think they sell it like 3.5K for like this group thing, like this. I think that's what they're doing. Would make the most sense. And yeah, then they have a distribution platform. You put it on school, you put it on WAP, and do whatever you want to make a shit ton of money. Yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed that. I'm probably gonna eat some chicken and some rice. Yeah, peace out.